Yeah.
All right. So in terms of the Flyers, there's definitely some stuff to talk about. We're going into game one, Vancouver. Flyers are going on the Western Canada trip to start the year, and they announced the official roster. Um, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's really not any guys that you didn't really expect. I mean, we kind of talked about this before, Mike, how it's a lot of guys that you kind of can just kind of pin into spots and you kind of have an idea of like who's on the roster, who isn't, kind of thing. So I'll read through it here. For the forwards, you have Bobby Brink, Noah Cates, Sean Couturier, Nick Delorier, Joel Farabee, Tyson Forrester, Morgan Frost, Garnet Hathaway, Travis Konecny, Scott Lawton, Jett Luchenko, which is the one we'll talk about here in a minute, MATVEI Michkov, Ryan Paling, and Owen Tippett. So nothing really crazy outside of Luchenko. It's pretty much the guys that you expected. As for the defense, Drysdale, Johnson, Ristolainen, Sanheim, Sealer, York, and Zamula, and then the goaltenders Urson and Fedotov. So it's nothing really crazy. But when you look at the offense, you see Jett Luchenko there, who will be the youngest Flyer ever to make his debut. And he's the youngest player in Flyers history to suit up for a game. And then Michkov. So you have both those guys making their debut on Friday night here against the Canucks. It's exciting. I think for me, like I look at it like it's kind of the step in the right direction. And you've mentioned it before. You're trying to get these guys to kind of stay around for 10, 12 years kind of thing. And this is kind of seems like the step, finally the step towards that.
So I guess out of the two young guys, one is predictable in Mishkov, and then the other one was kind of a surprise in Jett Luchenko. So um, you have to give him some credit, right? He certainly, if there was a crack in the door, he really got himself through it. Was it a short-term thing? Is it a long-term thing? I guess we'll have to see. But I mean, certainly he deserves, a big pat on the back here because he's really kind of made himself, kind of willed himself into a spot and made them keep him. So, he should be super proud of that. It's a big deal. Now to be able to get there and start here is, once again, I get over that, kind of that little honeymoon wears off, when you get through the first couple games of the year here and maybe start to see a trend in the lineup or the way the trend, some things become a little clearer to management on how they want to proceed for the rest of the year. His situation could change or whatever. And Mishkov is, hopefully he gets off to a great start and he's not going anywhere, right? He's going to be here for good. But Jett's certainly one he's going to have to play every night like it's his last year for a little bit to really prove a spot. And so, kind of as a young player, for those who don't know, there are some protections, right? They can keep you in a hotel for like 30 days, right? And sometimes it's you don't play. Sometimes you'll play 9 games in that window. Sometimes you don't. But there's like a little bit of a CBA time period where they can keep you, and that's another thing when you get called up in the office and they say, hey, we want you to get a place, and then that's kind of like another level of making it. And so maybe he can earn that. He can earn that right here in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. No, it's definitely a good point. And Mike, I think in terms of the hockey side of it too, like you mentioned it a couple episodes ago when Danny Briere also mentioned it in his press conference, like Patrice Bergeron. Like that seems like the thing everybody that a lot of people keep bringing up. Can he stay up the whole season? That's the biggest thing. Is like let's see how he plays in these first few, obviously the first nine and all that. But do you think there's any chance he could stay up for the full year?
That's it's a good question, and sometimes what would scare me a little bit, and Patrice, Patrice is like a third rounder. He's kind of a goofy skater. He probably wasn't, real pleasant to look at by the eye, like when he was an 18-year-old. So, he dropped down to the third round or late second or whatever he was. Jett is obviously a fantastic skater. So that's not the issue. The part that scares me is the Flyers are a bottom 6 or 7 scoring team. And so I think he's not known as a super scorer or a super terrific producer, whatever level he's been at. And if
Yeah.
you have a team that is just a high goals for per game, you can kind of hide them in there and kind of blend them in a little bit, and it's not as obvious. So now you get on a team where they don't score a ton, and this is going to be your year to play in junior. Not that kind of to go to junior and be like a scorer, put up a 60, 70, maybe like an 80 to 100-point season
Yeah.
and really work on that part of your game. And so that's a huge, that would be my only, one of my, I guess negatives of being around the whole year is like, where are you going to work on that scoring? Where's that scoring confidence going to come from? Because this can be super hard to score. Flyers already challenged enough as it is. And then you throw on, it's just super hard as a young player to score. Gets a little harder to get to the front of the net. Your shots aren't going in from 15, 20 feet out. Those have no chance of going in. You really got to be able to stick your nose in there. So, preseason is one thing, and you play with sketchy lineups and kind of, not everybody's going that hard. So then you get to this point here, and obviously the pace is going to pick up again, and the seriousness of the games obviously gets very serious, and it gets a little bit harder to find that easy ice around the net. So that would be one of my only kind of trepidations of the year being all around. Like, is how you're going to keep developing the scoring touch on this guy.